In May of 2019, Xamarin released version 4.0 of Xamarin.Forms. And there were a couple really key, cool features added in, one of which is the shell. And we're going to look at shell today in this video. I'm also going to look at another item added in, which is the collection viewer, which is in an experimental stage. However, most recently in version 4.3, they now say collection viewer is stable, and you don't have to add the tags to explain that it's experimental, that I'll show you how I did in this project. Even though I'm using 4.3, I still had to notify it as being experimental. But I created a little demo this weekend of those two items, and let me just run it and I'll show you how the shell works and how the collection viewer works. So this is shell. I started with just a single page application and then added in a shell page and added in more pages. So shell allows us to navigate multiple pages in a really cool way. I used a flyout to do that, but you could also have a tab at the bottom that allows you to navigate between different pages. So here's my flyout, and I have 5 pages here. My title screen, which is what you're seeing back here. And I have all of the top 100 songs that were released in the 1970s decade. And I want to be able to view those by release date. So I'm viewing them by month and year. I can view them by the peak, how far do they get up on the top 100 list. I can search for an artist, and I can search for a song. And you can see in this flyout here, we can have a nice little header up here, which can be a graphic. And then I have my items, and each item has a text and has an icon. So if I wanted to search for an artist, I can click on Search for Artist, and it takes me to that page. And what you're seeing here in the gray list is my collection viewer. And collection viewer is really cool in terms of displaying a list. Makes it so simple. But I want to search for, in this case, I'm going to search for Queen. So I'm typing Queen and click Search. And here are the songs released by Queen, including one called Which Queen, a different group, that made the top 100 in the 1970s. And so you can see they only had one that made it to number 1, and that was Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Bohemian Rhapsody, interestingly enough, only made number 9, and then We Are the Champions made number 4. I can also search for just part of a word. I'm just going to put Will in here and say search. And now I'm finding Andy Williams, Willie Henderson, Willie Hutch, Wet Willie. So these are all the artists that have Will in their name. Dwight Twilley Band is an interesting one. If we go back to my flyout, I want to search for a song. We talked about Crazy Little Thing Called Love. I'm just going to search for Crazy. And here are all the songs that have Crazy in the name. There's 18 songs. And if we scroll down to the list, you will see Queen, which was released in December of '79. So these are ordered by month and year. Is at the bottom of the list. Let's view by release date. So here are all the songs of the decade. But I can search for a particular year. I'm going to say 1973. And I can search for a month. Let's say May of '73. I'm going to click Go. And here are the songs that came out, were released in May of '73 that hit the top 100. And these are ordered by the ranking within that month. Now I can search for all the songs of 1973. And these now are ordered by the ranking, but within each month. So here are all the January ones, from 1 to basically 100. I can scroll down through the list. And you would then see quite a few. So we then see here are the ones from February of '73, and so forth through that list. And again, I can search for a particular month and look at just that month. I could also, if I wanted, search for all the songs that were released in August in the decade. And so there's 1970 August. Quite a few songs in August of 1970. Here's 71 of August, and so forth. So the cool thing about the shell is it allows you to build this little flyout and navigate to these pages very, very simply. So originally I was going to have you do this project, and I said it's probably too much for you to do. So I'm going to have you do the shell. We're going to create a shell project, and then I'm going to have you do another project, and I'll probably just create one of these. Maybe we'll just do the search for artist page within this application using the collection viewer. So you get a little practice with that. So let's go into Visual Studio, and we'll start playing around a little bit with the shell. I'm in Visual Studio 2019 on a PC, and I've created a new mobile app for Xamarin.Forms, and I'm running Xamarin.Forms 4.3, I think it is, in this particular version. It should be 4.0 or greater in order to get the shell. Now when I create a new project, you'll notice I now have a shell template here. However, I'm not going to use the shell template. I'm going to start with just a blank project that we've been using so far. And in a lot of ways, I think creating a shell view with a blank project is easier than using the shell template, and kind of also basically replaces the master detail and the tabbed views. So at least this is the route I'm going now. I'm not going to bother to do UWP. I'm just going to do Android and iOS and click OK. Okay, so here's my project. I have my Xamarin.Forms project, Android and iOS. I'm going to go into the Android and go down to Drawable in my Resources folder. We're going to add in some graphics. These graphics are available in the Canvas site in the assignments area. I think I've also put them in the modules. So I have 5 icon files that I've created for bird, cat, dog, fish, and rabbit. I'm just going to drag those over to Drawable. And I'm only doing one size. If I was going to publish this, I'd want to make sure I'd use different sizes for the different resolutions of devices. But if we put everything in the Drawable, it'll manipulate it in whatever device we're looking at it. On a higher resolution device, it may not look as good. I also have a logo here called Phoenix Pet Logo. The icons are all 200 by 200, so they're pretty good size. And the pet logo is 1000 by 500. So it's going to look good on most devices. Scaling down is usually not a problem. I'm going to drag this over to Drawable as well. All of these are build action of Android resource, which is the default. Okay, that's going to give our graphics available to us in the Android. If on the iOS side, we'd want to make sure we do the same thing and add those into our assets catalog. Okay. Then we're going to go up to the Xamarin.Forms. Expand that. I'm going to open up my main page. So here's our main page. We have the default label, Welcome to Xamarin.Forms. I'm going to change this to Welcome to Phoenix Pet Emporium. That's the name of our fictional store. I'm going to set the font size to be 21. And we'll change the font attributes to be bold. All right, I have fast forwarded in the process and added in an image above my label where I'm using the source as Phoenix Pet Logo.png. Change the aspect fill, and I centered and expand as far as vertical options. I added another label below the original label. By the way, I removed the vertical options from that label. And then in this one, I set the text to, we have everything and anything you need for your pets. We also have adorable pets ready to be adopted. Set the font size to 16. I set a margin of 20 units, both left and right. And then set the horizontal options to start. I added a box view below that just to push everything up and give me some blank space towards the bottom. And at the very bottom, I have a label that has my copyright information. And I set the font size to 12 and horizontal options to center. Let's just take a look at how this appears. So I'm going to run this in the emulator. And that looks great. That's exactly what I'm looking for. My logo, my 2 labels, the box view, and my copyright label. So that's our main page. That's where the project's going to start. But now I want to add pages for each of the different types of animals that we serve in the Phoenix Pet Emporium. I'm going to close my application from running. I'm going to go to my Xamarin.Forms project, and I'm going to add in a new item. I'm going to go to Xamarin.Forms, and I'm going to add in a content page. And we're going to call this one cat page. Capital C, capital P, click add. And so we're getting our cat page XAML. By default, we have our label, welcome to Xamarin.Forms. We're just going to change this to cats. I'm not doing any C# coding on any of these pages. We're just going to worry about creating pages and then navigating those pages. And let's add in another image here. And my image source is going to be iconcat.png. And we have an aspect here of aspect fit. And vertical options are going to equal center and expand. Okay, now I want to see this page, how it looks on in my emulator. So I'm going to go to the app.xaml and open up the underlying code for that, app.xaml.cs. And we have our public app constructor, and main page equals new main page. I'm going to change that to new cat page. So instead of using the main page to start with, we're going to start with the cat page. And that way we can see it when we run the emulator. Since haven't built in the navigation yet, I'm going to run the emulator. And there's my cat page. Okay, I just want something to show that we've gone to the cat page. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And so now I'm going to add in a page for our dogs. Add new item. Again, I want a content page. This is going to be dog page. And what I'm going to do is go to the cats page XAML. I'm going to copy the information here inside the stack layout. Go back to the dog page XAML. We're going to place the default label and paste in the information from the cat page. We'll change the icon to icon dog and change the text here to dogs. And once again, if I wanted to see how that was going to look, I could go to my app XAML CS and change this to dog page and test it. And there's our dogs page. What I'd like you to do is pause the video here and create pages for birds, rabbits, and fish. I now have pages for my bird page, cat page, dog page, fish page, the main page we started with, which is our title, and the rabbit page. So now I want to be able to navigate between those using a flyout menu, and we'll also create a tab bar to do that as well. So to do that, we're going to create another page, add a new item. It's going to be another content page. I'm just going to call this one shell page. And this is not going to be a content page. We're going to change the content page to read shell. And notice it changed it down here for my closing tag. I'm going to get rid of the content page .content and everything in between that. And I'm going to add in an item here, and that's going to be XML_NS for namespace. I'm going to do PG for page, and it's going to equal CLR-namespace : and then the name of my namespace, which is basically my project name, which is Xamarin Shell Demo. Now Now I need to go to the code behind. We'll come back to the XAML here in a minute, but let's go to the code behind. So this is shellpage.xaml.cs. And we have this public partial class shell page is a type of content page. So it's using that class. We're going to change that to shell. Now I'm getting this error here that says partial declarations of shell page must not specify different base classes. And I think this hasn't recognized the changes I made to the XAML. So sometimes when you get errors, what you always want to do first of all is go to the build menu and rebuild your solution or build the solution. And that sometimes will cause the errors to go away, as it now is recognizing the definitions created in the XAML page. So that went away. My errors are gone. And generally, whenever you add pages, it's probably a good idea just to come back and redo the build, either rebuild or build, especially as you add in items into the XAML page. If you want to recognize those items in the CS, you generally want to rebuild before you start working in the CS, just so it recognizes those views and those layouts that you add if they have names. Okay, I'm going to go back to the shell page XAML. So we're going to begin by building the header, which is going to contain our logo for the flyout. So I'm going to create a shell.flyout header template. And within that, we're going to create a data template. And then inside the data template is what we're going to create the content that we want to show at the top of our flyout. So you can create a stack layout, you can do a grid, so you can add multiple things here. All I'm going to add in is an image here at the top. And the source of my image is going to be that Phoenix pet logo.png. I'm going to set the vertical options to center. The aspect, I'll use aspect fit. And then let's also do horizontal options. And here I'll experiment a little bit. I'm going to try center and expand. Need my closing tag. And I'm just going to bring this down onto another line. I'm going to add a comment that the first flyout page in the list is the opening page. I'm going to add in a flyout item. We'll give it a title. And the title is going to be, let's call it About Page. I didn't create an icon for this page. Normally I want an icon here. We're going to try, I don't know if this will work or not, but we're going to set an icon equal to our Phoenix pet logo. It's going to really shrink that down. It's probably going to look horrible, and it may be too much of a shrink down. We'll have a problem with it, but let's just try it. I'm going to close that tag, and now in between the flat item and the closing flat item tags, we're going to add a shell content tag. And all we're going to say here is content template equals, and we want to basically specify the page we want to go to. And that's going to be in our data template. We're going to bind this to our data template. The PG, which is coming from what we did up here. And when I do that, notice here's all the pages that are in my Xamarin.Forms. I'm going to choose main page. And I need my closing tag. Now I want to add the other items. I'm just going to copy this and paste. We'll do this in alphabetical order. So this is going to be birds. I want my icon to be icon bird. .png. And our page here is going to be our bird page. Okay, we'll paste again. This will be our cats. Icon cat. And this should be our cat page. Go ahead and do the other flyout menus for the dog page, the fish page, and the rabbit page. All right, so I've added my flyouts for the dogs, the fish, and the rabbits, bringing in the icons for those three and going to those three different pages. Now, there's one more thing we have to do to make our shell work, and that is we have to go back to our app XAML.cs, and we need to make our main page a new shell page. And with that, I'm going to go to the build menu, and I'm going to build my solution. It's not a bad idea sometimes to clean your solution first. So I'm getting an error that's not finding main page. I'm going to come back to up here to my PG. I think I put an extra space in here that might be causing a problem. So make sure I spell everything correct. Xamarin Shell Demo, capital X, capital S, capital D. That's the way I have it over here. So I'm going to once again try to clean, and we'll try to build again. Okay, and that apparently was the error. It was including the space as part of the namespace, and therefore it couldn't find the pages. So let's just try running this on our simulator. There's my startup page. It's the first page of my flyout menu, which is the Phoenix Pet logo. And then in our flyout, I'm getting my header, which is the logo. It did take that icon, this huge file, and reduce it way down in size. It's not really viewable or meaningful, that really small view. So I might want to add another icon in here. But let's test the other flyout items. So there's our birds, our cats, our dogs, fish, and rabbits. I'm going to close. Shell allows you to not only use a flyout, but you can also use a tab bar. It'll control the navigation for the tab bar. In the shell page XAML, I have commented out all of the flyout information as far as the header template and the flyout items. And then I added in a tab bar. And there are two ways to do the tabs. So one is, I commented this out, you can do a tab structure with shell content, the tab having an icon and a title, and then containing shell content in the page you want to go to. I'm going to comment that out again. Or you can also just do a shortcut here of the page, the icon image source, and the title. Now I have 6 items here, and only 5 will fit on the tab bar for my particular device of the Samsung Galaxy 9. But we'll get a little more button. And just to show you how this works, let me run it. So I still have the flyout here. There's nothing there. Instead, and I'll show you how to disable that flyout in a minute. I have the icons down here, so I can go to birds, cats, tabs using the tab bar, and then there's this more option over here, and here I can access the fish and the rabbit. And my icon for the fish apparently didn't show up. There's the fish, there's the rabbit, or I can go back to title. Now I'm going to stop debugging. I'm going to uncomment out the flyout and end up getting an error here on my flyout item. Property elements cannot be in the middle of an element's content. They must be removed. They must be before or after the content. And the problem here, I think, is that I have both the tab bar and the flyout. However, when I tested this earlier, it still compiles and it still runs. So I have my flyout, and I can go to one of the items. Now, as soon as I do that, though, the tab bar disappears. Let me run it again. The tab bar all works here. But as soon as I go to the flyout, the tab bar disappears. So at this point, it appears you cannot do both. If you only have a couple of pages, then the tab bar is probably appropriate. If you have several pages, though, the flyout is going to be a better option for you. I'm going to comment out the button bar. And we'll rebuild. And so I'm back to the flyout working.